am who I am and I know who I am, and I don't really care how society puts that in a box. I really have experienced that people are maybe the most good-looking person, and yet their sexual liberation is completely off, and it turns people off. It's not attractive. True love really exists. And when I met this person, I even said the same evening, I feel we're gonna stick forever together. We as a species forgot the most important thing to do, and it would be to maintain our own species. Sperm count dropped by 50% the last 50 years, and it will be at 0 by 2046. On a personal development journey, sexual liberation is very important. And there is a quote which goes, sexual liberation isn't about losing control. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And I grew up in a very small village in Switzerland, very conservative. It was Catholic, of course, back then. The church was also more influential. I had no idea about a lot of things before I could leave that village. And my life converted or transformed completely when my spiritual teacher actually told me 2017 to go completely wild. That was his words. Go completely wild on all levels. And that meant, of course, on my sexual energy or sexual liberation. I did a lot of trainings with sannyasins, people or followers from Osho. It had a big transformation in my life as well. But the biggest one was 2017 when I was listening to a spiritual teacher in Amsterdam, and it was funny-wise, the teachings were in a church, Saturday, Sunday, and on Saturday evening there was a sex party in a club called The Church in Amsterdam. So I went there, and it was everybody was naked and we were just wearing masks. It was just before COVID. It was 2020 when I experienced that the first time. And I don't know what was weirder, to be naked on the dance floor or to wear a mask and to not see who's behind. And it was for me very symbolic. It was just before COVID came and we always had the masks. That also meant, of course, I had to be comfortable with my body, and I had not super huge issues with it, and yet still there is always something you want to complain about in your body. So that was for me being on the party, but then also, of course, seeing everything, like people having sex everywhere, male, female, male, male. Like falling in love with somebody doesn't really depend in my life on the gender. And many people maybe don't understand what I mean. I just say I don't need to follow a rule of society that I need to say I fall in love with a guy or a girl, or I call myself bisexual or hetero or gay. For me, it was really, I am who I am and I know who I am, and I don't really care how society puts that in a box. It was actually the same with food. I don't really call myself vegetarian. I just know I don't eat meat. I don't care about the whole culture of vegetarianism or veganism. Yeah, I mean, sexual liberation out of my very personal journey and very personal experiences is more to understand who you are and to live truly who you are, and to not hold back and think you will be judged by society. And that includes also the fantasy. I just think we are living in society where it's highly suppressed, a lot of it. I mean, I don't want to say it must be for all of us. I just say it from my personal experience. I was super suppressed, all my fantasies. And in all the years I have seen, I would say, really a lot that I can say what I like or what I don't like. But if I would not have had the chance to see, to experience how it feels in this situation when, for example, sex parties, or to see how it's more a question of confidence. Because when we are children, we run away around naked, and we give a fuck how people how we are perceived. No child cares that somebody can see their genitals or it's not the perfect body. So it must have been a change with our more conscious, or as more adults we become, as more care we are how we are perceived. And I really have experienced that people are maybe the most good-looking person, and yet their sexual liberation is completely off, and it turns people off. It's not attractive. That's what I say when you go and on the date market, for example, there is an energetic component, and I know some people who can be easily model, and yet it's very difficult for them to find a partner or to fall in love because it's not authentic. They have not really liberated. And on the other hand, people who are maybe not a 10 out of a 10 on a rational scale, they are at most demand in those settings I just shared. So there must be an energetic component, how confident, how comfortable I am with my own being, similar like I was when we were children. I would also say, as I mentioned, it's like eating food. The importance is not that you have to commit to a certain type of food. It's more that you have, or each of us has the opportunity to try different food. And I can really advise this as in my experience, the shaman told me to go wild. It was really the best experience of my life. And now I'm in a beautiful relationship with really my soul partner that has really changed my life, because I was knowing that it exists, that true love really exists. And when I met this person, I even said the same evening, I feel we're going to stick forever together, because I feel such a strong connection. And I really wish that everybody can experience something like this in their life. And maybe I also can say, in my opinion, I would not have been ready 3 years ago or 5 years ago, because my liberation or my self-acceptance would not be yet there to really fall in love with a guy, or to also publicly admit that right now I like this soul and we are together. So, and it's beyond all the mind concept that the same-sex love. For me, it's almost like torture of mind that I have to justify I like a guy or a girl. What the fuck? Why do I need to justify? The heteros don't need to do it as well. And I give I don't care what is your preference, as long as nobody cares what is my preference. If it doesn't harm your surrounding, let me do whatever it feels right for me. So it's really similar to eating meat. When I mean sexual liberation, I also mean really we have to come over that deeply genetic program of reproduction, because many people are not aware how deeply we are controlled, how deeply we are kind of zombies of evolution to reproduce. And I always advise to people to get a little bit of knowledge about deeper meaning of reproduction, or having children, for example. I could have a conversation, and I would have a lot of haters. This conversation around children and family or society concepts, I would just say is really nice to get to raise your awareness about those topics. Do some research, get your own understanding and also your own conscious decision. Do I really want to have kids? And does my partner also want to have kids? I would say it would avoid a lot of miserable situation on this planet if it would have been more in act of love and consciousness, rather than a fulfilling expectation of society, making my parents grandparents, or producing the next generation of taxpayers, etc. I mean, truly, my truly first liberation of freedom in my body, I remember it's when you go to nude beach, for example. It's so funny when you go the first time, how shy you are. And when you compare with kids, as a kid I was always naked on a beach. And for me now it's the most natural. I don't like to go to not nudist beaches because it's so natural. Or saunas, or in school to have a shower and everybody sees each other. I mean, it's really fascinating how suppressed that is. And it should be the most natural that we can just be naked. So I would say it's not a moment in my life, but of course if you put that into the topic of going wild, that really maybe has changed my life, that I could explore my deepest of the fantasies with other people. I mean, that maybe was the moment when I felt truly liberated and truly comfortable in my body. It would be like animals, because this is also fascinating. The animals we come from there. I believe there was way less rules. I don't like it, call it rules. Let's call it dogmas. It's so dogmatic. And we are almost in societies where there will be no engagement anymore from male to female. So reproduction is almost impossible because we make it so complicated. And at the end, both the male and the female would say, fuck, yeah, I want to have sex and let's make children. I wish people could have more an animalistic relationship with sex. And I mean, sex for me is not the same like love. So that's very big difference. Yeah, I would say it's much less liberated than in ancient times, because I believe in ancient times, I'm not an expert, it's more a feeling. I would say the whole story around it was more easy. It was less conceptualized, less stereotyped. I would also say we are too busy. We are simply too distracted with all the dating apps. I would say we are really in a dead end when it comes to society. But you see already, many people are not aware. Google, do your own research, that the sperm count dropped by 50% the last 50 years. And it will be at 0 by 2046. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. And this means that 2 generations later we are gone. So we don't need a nuclear war that we are being wiped out. Why? Because we have an unhealthy lifestyle, we are too busy, it's too expensive to have kids, it's too complicated to date. Isn't it crazy when you think about that we as a species forgot the most important thing to do, and it would be to maintain our own species and to reproduce in that way, or to maintain reproduction. The energy of love, I said, is the biggest force. Here it is written, the power of love is the biggest force. You can't really fake it or manipulate. It's real. Love, the feeling you have for love, or if you're connected with others and you care and you love somebody, you can't fake it. The sexuality, or I call it the need or the desire from my DNA to reproduce, it's really different topic. And even from chemistry standpoint or biological standpoint, it's really, we are working on autopilot. I shared another day that the females, we spoke about the fear of death. Once a female has given birth, her acceptance for death would be much higher than before her giving birth. So it's really a DNA program to reproduce, and once we would have fulfilled that, it would be more easier to die. It's the same in nature. There are some animals there, as soon they have given birth, they die.